everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so happy to have you here today. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be giving you part one of font hacks for working with Cricut and Cricut Design Space. This is going to help you work with your fonts so much easier, so much quicker, and be able to really make the fonts work for you and your designs. Before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. Now, without further ado, let's head over to Cricut Design Space. One of my favorite things about fonts is that you're not stuck just using the ones from Cricut or that are already installed on your computer, but you can actually download and install more fonts so that you have a really good font selection. And one thing that I love about fonts, especially, are font duos, which is a set of fonts that are made to look good together. So this one, called Remember Things, is two separate types of fonts. You can see that you have just like kind of a regular font, but then you also have a script font. And these are made so that they look nice together. Now, I'll link this font below, and I'll also link where I get all of my fonts from so that you can find all sorts of great fonts. Some of the sites are free, some of them are paid, some require a membership. You'll just have to look around and see what works best for you. But I do love Creative Fabrica because all of their entire website is included, and it's only $3.99 a month, so it's a really great price. But what you'll do is when you find the font that you like, and this is going to be basically the same directions regardless of where you download from. You're going to click download on whatever website you're on, and it's going to bring up your folders and ask you where you want to save it. Now, I have a folder that I title fonts, and that way I can keep all my fonts in one place, and I click save. Now, you are going to need to open up the folder that you just downloaded, and you're going to need to use the extract all option, which is unzipping your folder or decompressing it so that you're able to access your files. Now, when you're installing fonts, you want to make sure that you're using the open type font. Yours might say OTF, and that is the open type font. The TTF is fine, but you're better off using the OTF type of file. I have two fonts here. What I can do is select both by holding Control and clicking both of them. I have Remember Things Script and Remember Things. I want to right click on this. Now, if you have more than one person that uses your computer, you'll want to go to Show More Options, and you're going to want to install for all users. That way, this can be used across your entire computer for everybody, and it's just a better way to do it rather than just clicking Install. So you want to install for all users, and this part goes so quickly, it will just really quickly install your fonts. Then you can just go ahead and close the folders. You can go back and delete that compressed folder if you don't want it anymore, or you can delete the regular one. It really doesn't matter. I like to keep them just because if I get a new computer, I have an easy way to back up my fonts. If Cricut Design Space was opened while you installed that font, you need to make sure that you close Cricut Design Space, and then we're going to reopen it. So let me go ahead and close it. I'm going to quit it, and then I'm going to reopen the program. In Cricut Design Space, simply go up to New Project, and you're going to always want to use blank canvas. None of the other ones are great. They're kind of pointless. And close this stupid tab that always opens, and you're going to go to text, and we're just going to enter any text that we want. So we'll just use my name for the example here. I'll make this bigger so that you can see it. Now, what you'll do is up at the top of your screen, right here with the two little A's, if you click on that, you can go to your system fonts, and we can actually search for it. So we'll just search for the first couple letters, and you'll see that we have Remember Things. Now, keeping in mind that we did have a Remember Things script. So let me show you something. Rather than search for it, sometimes you're just better off to scroll down. It's all going to be alphabetical order because sometimes Cricut Design Space doesn't always search for everything, and it doesn't always find both items. So you can see I have Remember Things script and Remember Things. So let's go ahead and put my first name in the regular Remember Things, and then let's do my last name in Remember Things script so you can just kind of get an idea of how they look. Such a cute little font, super easy. Now, I will say that this does have like a little space here, but let's see what happens if we click Unite. It does fill that space in, so don't worry about that. Some fonts will do that. It's just kind of a flaw in Design Space. But look at how cute that is. It's so fun, and it's so easy to download and install whatever fonts you want, whatever styles you want to go for. This is a super easy thing to do. And like I said, I'll link down below some sites where you can download your own fonts. When working with your fonts, there's a really cool feature that can help you find your favorite fonts, or maybe you want to compare fonts, something like that. There's a great way to do that. Over here under your font section, you'll see that you have this bookmarked one. Now you'll notice that I don't have anything there because I want to show you what this does. So if there's fonts that I know that maybe I want to use for my project now, or maybe I saw a font and I'm like, I want to be able to find that again really easily, you can bookmark them. And by bookmarking them, it's going to put them in that little section. To bookmark a font, you just hover over it and you're going to click this little tab here, this little like flag, and I'll just bookmark a couple random things. And it works with both your system fonts and your Cricut fonts, so you can really kind of bookmark whatever you like. So I'll just bookmark a few here just to show you what it's going to look like. So once I bookmarked my fonts, they're going to come up in this little menu. What I love about this is, again, fonts you use a lot, it's great for. If you're going to do a project maybe in the future and you're like, oh, I really like this font and I want to use it later, but I don't want to have to remember that I liked it, you can bookmark it. Now let's say, okay, I've done my project. I don't really want to keep it there anymore. It's very easy to get rid of. You just hover over it and remove the bookmark by clicking on the little flag. So you can clear out your bookmarked fonts anytime that you want to. So maybe you're making multiple projects and you want to make sure that you have those fonts on hand, something like that. It's just a really easy way to keep your fonts right at the top of mind, especially if you're doing multiple projects. It's just a really good thing. It doesn't stick with your project. That does stick with your entire design space. So even if I were to change projects, those bookmarked fonts will stay bookmarked so I can look at them. Now this here is one of my favorite hacks for fonts, and it's really a time saver. Plus it's free, which is always great. So what this is basically a website where you can preview your fonts. The website is wordmark.it, and it's, again, completely free. So you can put in whatever you want to see your words be. So like I'm going to put my name. So if I want to see what my fonts on my computer will look like with my name, I can look that up. Now, keeping in mind that this is only your computer fonts, this won't show you any Cricut fonts, but I still think this is super helpful. And honestly, I prefer using my system fonts. I find that they're just better. You get more variety and you're not using the same fonts that everybody else is using. So what you can do with this is you can scroll through and see what all of your fonts look like. If you find a font that you like and you might want to use for your project, you can simply click on it. You can scroll through and choose as many fonts as you want to, any styles, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to choose a bunch of them just to show you. I'm not really, obviously planning anything, but I can kind of pick out some of the fonts that I like or want to see what they look like a little closer. And once I've gotten down to the bottom, which I have a lot, so it's, there's tons of fonts on my computer. I'm only into the M's. So this is going to take a while to get through. It really depends on how many fonts you have on your computer as to like how long it will take you to scroll through. But again, they're all alphabetical. So I'm just going to kind of scroll all the way to the bottom. And once I get to the bottom, which we're almost there, I'm going to pick just a couple fonts just on the way down. Now I'm at the bottom here. Once I've done that and I'm like, okay, I want to see what all of those fonts look like. I'd like to compare my fonts. What's great about this is you can do that. Up here at the top, click Filter Selected Fonts. And you'll see that all the fonts that I've chosen are on my screen. Now let's say, okay, I kind of have a visual for my design and maybe this one isn't it. I can just click it and get rid of it. But if you want to see an image, like one of the fonts closer up, just click on it. That's all you have to do. You can click on it, look at it, and be like, do I like it? Don't I like it? If you decide you don't like it, you can just remove it. And you can do that for any of these fonts so that you can see them closer. Now, what's great about this is you can literally say, okay, get it down to like 2 or 3 fonts that you like. Maybe there's just a few that are just not it for me. So I'm just going to kind of get rid of them. And I'm going to get down to a couple that I like. All I have to do then is just remember the font names or just refer back to this website. And from here, I can compare them on to Cricut Design Space, maybe against another font, maybe against the blank that I want to use, something like that. But this gives you the opportunity to really see your fonts up close, personal, typed out without having to scroll through Cricut. Sometimes that can be super annoying. Also, sometimes the Cricut doesn't give you the preview correctly. And also, who really wants to scroll and click all the time just to change your font? So this is a great way to see all of your fonts. It's one of my favorite hacks. In Cricut Design Space, you can actually filter fonts, which I think is helpful. Now, you can't really do it on your system fonts, but if you're using Cricut fonts, they do have a really handy filter, which is right here. It's these two lines with the circles on them. When you click on them, it's going to bring up all sorts of information. So you've got like characteristics like all caps, kerned, multi-layer, single layer, writing. We'll come back to that one in just a second. You also have free, purchased and downloaded. You also have brands, and then there's different languages. So you have quite a few filters that you can use. Now, like I said, we'll come back to the writing one in just a few minutes because that's one that I want to go over in a little bit more detail. But one of the things that I really like about this is that I'm able to kind of really filter this down. So let's say I know I don't want to pay for any fonts. So I can just tell it to show me any font that is free, which you can see that there's quite a few available that are free, and some of them look really fun. So you do have quite a few options if you do want to use Cricut fonts. There's not just every single one that is, gonna be costing you money, or you have to have the Cricut access to use it. You're going to be able to use quite a few without it, which I think is really nice. Now you'll notice that some of them, they will populate with like your preview. I will say that this is not always accurate. So if you want to see the font, make sure you do in fact click on it, because sometimes the preview just doesn't seem to quite match the design. But this is a nice feature that they have added. Now within your system fonts, it will not do that. You're going to have to use that wordmark.it that I showed you earlier. Let's talk writing. So with Cricut Design Space, you can write with these really fun fonts, but I'm going to show you how to find them so that you make sure that your font's going to come out great. So if you want to use a Cricut Design Space fonts, meaning the fonts belong to Cricut, there's an easy way to find ones that will work. What we'll do is we're going to select our text, whatever it may say. You're going to go to your font section here, and you're going to make sure you're on Cricut. Now I did filter, so I'm going to clear all my filters. And what you want to do is under characteristics, you want to choose the writing option. Once you've done that, you'll see all of your fonts come up that can write. So if I select one of them, you'll see what it looks like when you use the pen. Now, keeping in mind that they're not all going to be single line images. A lot of them will have this outline because some people want it to look like that. But if you're looking for like the single line ones, you can easily see those here in the previews. And you can see that there are many, many, many to choose from that will write in single line, but there are some that are more stylized like this one, or this one that has like a fun design in it. This one that's going to write like bubble letters. This could be really fun if you wanted to do like a coloring page, but then you do have many of the ones that are just single line. Now there are 528 fonts. Now, granted, I do have Cricut access. Now let's see what happens if I choose the free fonts, see if we get any less. We only have 26 to choose from. So if you don't have Cricut access, you are limited to your writing fonts, but I do think there are still quite a few to choose from. 26 is a pretty good amount, and I do think you're getting quite a good variety. But let's say, you know what, I really don't want to use a Cricut font to write. Totally okay. Not everybody wants to. So what we'll do, let me go ahead and just clear these just to get rid of them. We can go into our system fonts, and there are some fonts that you can use within Cricut Design Space that are not Cricut fonts that will actually write pretty nicely when you're using your pens. So I do have to scroll a little bit because I don't always remember all the ones that write pretty nice. Like you can see that some of them are obviously going to be very, very thick. And if you change it to pen, you can see that this one would be an outline. Now, again, any font can write. It's just a matter of how you want it to write. So if you're looking for fonts that could be a really good font to use for writing, what you want to look for are really thin fonts. So something like this. Now, mind you that this is very, very large. Now, if I take this and size it way down, like let's say we're writing it on an envelope, it's going to look a lot more filled in, especially if you're going to use a little bit thicker of a pen versus the 0.4 pen. But you want to look for things that are really, really thin fonts that might write and appear to write. Now, I'm not going to go over all of these because I do have a huge list on my website. Plus, I have a bunch of videos that do talk about writing fonts and how to find free writing fonts and offer you all the free writing fonts. So we're just going to kind of talk about it really briefly right here, but I will link the videos for you, and I will link that full list of the writing fonts that are free that write really beautifully. But you can definitely use lots of different fonts for this. Plus, I'm going to show you a hack here in just a second that's going to take you and tell you how you can actually fill in any of your fonts. So let's do that one next. Now with Cricut Design Space, you can use pens to write or draw. Either one is the correct term. But in this case, I want to draw out this word. And when I do this with the pen, as it sits right now, it will just do a bubble letter, which means the inside will be transparent. It doesn't outline. So I'll show you what that looks like by using the pen function under draw. And you can see here that it is just simply an outline. And if you look, you can really see it when I change the background. So it will only do the black portion. But if you want to fill your font in, it's actually super easy. You're going to use what's called an inset, which is basically just the negative of the offset. We're going to use those insets so that it will draw the lines on the inside of the letters. So what you'll do is go to edit and you're going to go to offset. Now you'll see here that we've got our default offset at 0.25, but you're going to use a negative offset, and I do recommend using a negative 0.002, and that's usually about where I go. When I click apply, you're not really going to see a lot of change right now to our design. I'm going to move this over a little bit so you can see it. And what you're going to do, you want to select and make sure that you have the offset selected, and then just click apply. And you're just going to keep doing this over and over again. And click offset, click apply, offset, apply. And you can see how it's getting thicker. Do you see how that black is becoming much thicker every time that I click apply? What that's doing is it's adding another section of the pen to fill in your letters. This is super fun, super easy to do, but it does take a little bit of time. So let me go ahead. I'm just clicking offset and apply a whole bunch until the design is fully filled in. Once that's done, I will show you what it looks like, and then we'll go ahead and draw this on the Cricut. That way you can see how well this works, because it does work pretty well. Sometimes you might need to fill in a little small area by yourself with a pen, but for the most part, this is going to do a really good job filling in your design. Once I've got this fully filled in, before I do anything else, I'm going to select everything, which just draw a big box, and you want to attach this because you don't want any of those lines to move. Now, I'm going to go ahead and resize this down. I did change the color, but I am going to make this a bit smaller just because that's a little bit big for writing this out, because this does take a while. Now, once I'm going to go ahead and resave this just because I did make a few changes, including changing the pen color. Pen color doesn't matter. Cricut doesn't know what color you're putting in. It's just for you, especially if you're using multiple colors. But I'm just going to use whatever pen I've got that looks like it's new. I'm going to go ahead and click make. And what you'll see here is on our make screen, you're just going to see it look like the name. You're not going to see like a million lines on it or anything like that. It's just going to look like a nice filled in name. And you can see right here, we've got that. Now we can move this anywhere on the screen that we need to for it to write on our paper. I'll just leave it up at the top. So let's head over to the machine so you can see this write it out and get an idea of what it does. So when I went to film this, my Cricut just would not connect. So this is some footage from my full tutorial, which I'll link down below, on filling in fonts, because you can actually do this with images as well. This actually doesn't take a super long time, but it is going to take you a little while to fill these in depending on the size of your design. But this is a really great way to fill in text if you want it to look bigger. If you want it to look more finished, this is definitely a great way to do it. And it does come out really, really well. I hope you picked up some great tips and tricks here in part 1, but be sure to check out part 2 coming in just a couple of days. This is going to help you really get those fonts and everything that you want to do with them all handled in a very quick and efficient way. I have so many great hacks to share with you, and I'll link some of my favorite videos about other Cricut hacks down below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting.